This episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by Rooster Teeth's new comedy podcast, Good Morning from Hell. Click the link below to subscribe. Hey, welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Thursday.
Corporate intrigue Thursday?
Ooh, embezzlement. I don't know if that's the story. I'm just
Walmart.
Free associating. The top executives at some of the biggest companies in video games have been making a lot of extra money through some pretty questionable methods. Some scratch, a little bit of change.
You talking about loot boxes? You talking about selling bootleg jewels? Maybe some Candy Crush?
Good guesses, Zach. But no, this story is about executives selling stocks in their own company, and while it's perfectly legal, people are making hundreds of millions doing it. Don't you love it when someone picks themselves up by their bootstraps and just makes hundreds of millions of dollars, Brian?
It rules. We live in a great system.
Yeah, we're doing a whole story on corporate intrigue today, but unfortunately our boss Lawrence is not here to defend them, so we're just gonna go deep in on these corporations. We're gonna take him to task, aren't we, Connor?
He's off doing rails in international waters, cutting deals and picking up briefcases filled with, stocks.
It's legal, but one regulator here in the United States thinks it's market manipulation. Some lawmakers are also trying to stop it.
Okay, so here's how it works, and this is gonna be kind of dry, but it's important to understand. Let's use Activision Blizzard as our first example. According to the Washington Post, back in 2017, the company announced it was going to buy back its own shares.
Whoa, why would they do this, Brian? Why would companies make such a bold endeavor?
So it kind of dates back to the 80s, back when things were awesome. So in the past, this was kind of used as a defensive move to guard against hostile takeovers from outside groups, kind of those corporate raiders that we heard so much about. Back in the day, they would buy up enough of a company's stock to get control, then do whatever they want. That was kind of part of their rationale. Now they say also, we're just going to return a lot of value to the shareholders, so we're going to buy back a bunch of stock.
Things aren't as cool anymore now, though. You're not seeing people standing on the side of a yacht saying, I'll wipe my butt with the amount you take home every year, Throwing it off into the sea.
The 80s.
There's a side effect of stock buybacks. It also usually makes that company's stock price jump, because if they're buying back their own stock, that means that there are less shares out on the open market, which means that they're more valuable. Are you still with us? No? Cool.
Very cool. So back to Activision. They announced in early 2017 a $1 billion program to buy back their own shares. And a day after that was announced, their CEO, Bobby Kotick, sold nearly 4 million shares in the company. And he made more than $180 million.
He is my favorite Activision executive.
What a cool CEO.
Because the stock had jumped after the announcement, the share price was 15% higher than it was before the news about the stock buyback.
Buy.
You gotta watch out for that stuff. This is how Lord and Savior Martha Stewart got in the slammer.
Yeah, it's a bull market.
Kotick wasn't the only one cashing in, though. A week later, a total of 5 top executives in Activision had sold shares worth more than $430 million.
That included Brian.
Brian Kelly, not me.
I was just making a little joke, like you were making money off of the stock exchange thing.
I wouldn't be sitting on this laptop with $430 million.
Yeah, it would definitely at least be a newer laptop.
It'd be a blinged out laptop on a mountain of cocaine.
Yeah, with an OLED screen.
And ultra-wide.
That included Brian Kelly, who is chairman of Activision's board. He sold over 5 million shares and made more than $230 million.
This is a lot of coin. Yeah, it's part of a pattern that we're seeing across all companies, not just in video games. Company insiders, sometimes even the same people who authorized a stock buyback, selling their shares to take advantage of a jump in the price. And if you're wondering, is this all legal, Brian, can you give us the scoop?
Is it legal?
Oh yeah, it's legal, baby.
Thank God, I thought they were doing something wrong for him.
Yeah, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates the security industries, it does allow insiders to sell stock during a buyback, as questionable as it sounds. So I don't know if I made all that clear in the script, but basically companies announce a big stock buyback, the price of their shares jump, and the CEOs are like, cool, I'm selling mine. I'm gonna make a huge return on my investment. So it's a little complicated, but that's what it boils down to.
So it's legal. We can go home. Episode's over.
Nothing to look into here.
But wait! One member of the commission is very critical of this practice.
Robert Jackson, an SEC commissioner, told the Washington Post that the companies are doing so much purchasing of their own stock, to be clear, that they're moving the price of their own shares.
It's a bull market.
He then asked, isn't it market manipulation for a company to say we're doing a buyback and then an officer says, I'm going to sell?
In the case of Activision, they ended the buyback program and never bought any of their own shares. They told the Post, though, that they didn't do anything wrong. In a statement, Activision said, quote, consistent with common practice, we don't comment on why we purchased purchase or do not purchase shares. But it is completely incorrect and irresponsible to assert that our board of directors' authorizations were entered into for any improper purpose. Heavens!
I picture a wagging finger there.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it was proper or not, 5 Activision executives definitely made a whole lot of money.
We are truly living in a capitalist hell. And you know who else is living in hell? Who? Clayton, the brother of Satan and the star of the new Rooster Teeth show, Good Morning from Hell. Take it away.
Oh, love that one.
Thanks, guys. This episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you in part by Clayton, the brother of Satan. And, oh, that's kind of rhymes. And his new Rooster Teeth show, Good Morning from Hell. In this all-new, audio-only comedy podcast, Clayton and his freshly dead manservant, Chris Damaris, interview various residents of hell. Find out what happens when you die, what your favorite dead celebrities are up to, and they went to hell, and hear about Chris's eternal punishment. Each week they have a new special guest playing weird and unique characters, like a recent episode featuring Funhouse's James and Elise Willems, where they play members of the Beatles living in the underworld. That's very funny. It's out now. Just check the link in the description below or search for Good Morning from Hell wherever you listen to audio podcasts. The most likely Beatle to be in hell? What was the name of the 5th Beatle, the unsung hero, that black piano player?
But Activision isn't the only gaming company whose executives have done this. Brian, tell us more.
Oh no, everyone's other favorite video game behemoth also took part in this. EA. If there's some shenanigans going on, EA is not going to be left out.
Oh no, they're like a bloodhound. They're like,
Challenge everything? More like challenge you not to take a paycheck, you shill, Brian. Go ahead, please. Don't even try to come at us. Go on, keep talking.
All right, I will. Back in 2017, EA also announced a stock buyback, and CEO Andrew Wilson just a few days later sold more than $2 million worth of stock after the announcement. Coincidentally, it had jumped between 12 and 19% after the announcement.
EA spokesperson John Reesberg told the Post that Wilson's stock sales were part of a prearranged trading program and that they were done without his direct input.
and he said that it was all done according to SEC rules.
Such that they are.
It's also worth noting that less than 2 years after their CEOs made boatloads of cash, both Activision's and
Activision.
I spell it wrong every single time in the script.
yeah, it's Activia, that's the yogurt. I couldn't remember. Jamie Lee
Toss
Curtis.
to Jamie Lee Curtis over there.
Well, she's talking about Vicodin now, actually.
She's all into products that make you poop. I don't get it.
Does Vicodin make you poop?
Does it? I don't know.
I'm gonna just pick back up where we were. Both Activision and EA laid off hundreds of employees.
Activision Blizzard laid off about 800 employees earlier this year in what Bobby Kotick called a restructuring. So yeah, you gotta make that stock go up somehow.
Like I'm restructuring the mini bar outside my mansion because I'm Bobby Kotick. Restructuring my ass.
Yeah, at the time he told investors that even though Activision had once again achieved record results in 2018, the company would be consolidating and restructuring because of missed expectations for 2018.
Meanwhile, also this year, EA laid off 350 employees globally in marketing, publishing, and other departments, while also closing offices in Russia and Japan.
The most important ones.
In an email to employees, Andrew Wilson said, quote, "We have a vision to be the world's greatest games company. If we're honest with ourselves, we're not there right now. We have work to do with our games, our player relationships, and our business."
He should have added, and we're doing another stock buyback. Excuse me while I go sell some shares.
I could see your spit.
I was just extremely passionate.
It's not a great look for an industry that has made a lot of headlines for its treatment of employees.
Yeah, apparently while devs are being crunched endlessly to crank out the products, the CEOs are just busy taking gold coin baths.
That's great for your pores.
Luxurious.
Damn, I earned every one of these. But again, it's not just video game companies doing this. CEOs of companies like Adobe, Home Depot, and Yelp have done the same thing, so has the CEO of TJX, which operates the TJ Maxx and Marshall's retail chains.
A few years ago, the CEO of Oracle, Safra Catz.
That's a great name.
Yeah, it does sound like a...
She's an Israeli-born American banker and technology executive.
CEO of Oracle, Rum Tum Tugger. That's a cat, right? That's Jason Derulo.
CEO Mike Hunt.
Safra Catz sold a whopping $1.2 billion in Oracle stock after a buyback was announced.
Okay,
That's a lot of Safra cats.
Brian,
That's a lot of
please,
cats.
this is illegal, right?
Cold hard cats.
No, it's not, Connor or Patrick. Again, it's all legal. Or Zach, I'm sorry. Again, it's all legal, but some lawmakers in both parties actually want to end this practice. Senator Tammy Baldwin has introduced legislation to ban stock buybacks, and even Senator Marco Rubio has suggested taxing them as a way to discourage companies from doing them. None of those have gone anywhere, though.
An article in The Atlantic earlier this year called it the stock buyback swindle, saying today the abuse of stock buybacks is so widespread that naming abusers is a bit like singling out snowflakes for ruining the driveway.
Typical snowflakes.
I feel seen. Hey, you, Jared. Get out of my driveway.
But don't look for this to change anytime soon. The Post reported that the chairman of the SEC, Jay Clayton, has shown little interest in tightening buyback rules. And since he controls the agenda, that's pretty much that.
Yeah, so the rich guys will keep getting richer and nothing will change. And that's the story. Done. Go home.
Tale as old as time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go buy some stocks and ski on a mountain of snow, if you know what I mean.
And mentioned making a lot of money from his 5% stake in Terraria.
Basically, he's telling me about what the financial compensation could be. He told me about how he took a 5% revenue share on Terraria's sales. He said something along the lines of like, hey, if you do enough work to get paid for it, imagine how much you'll get